Welcome. I'm Tisha,
I'm Christina.
and this is our podcast, Silent Issue. In our podcast, we will discuss issues that are often not talked about or kept silent. We hope that you will enjoy listening. Today, we will discuss what it's like being mixed. Granted, this may have been discussed by others before, but for us, our experiences have opposites, and no one has ever asked us how we feel being labeled or just feeling not included. So, Christina, tell me, what are you mixed with?
I'm mixed with black, white, and Spanish.
And what do you look like when people see you? What do they think?
They just think I'm black.
Okay. And see, I have the opposite. I'm mixed the same as you with the same mixtures, but people look at me and they either see a white person, well, white skin colored person. They don't see a white person. Let me clarify that. Or they see a Hispanic person and they assume that I speak Spanish. Do you go through that? Does anyone assume you speak Spanish?
No, they just assume that I like different food because of black people. Like,
So you grow up in what kind of area are you growing up in?
more of a white, like like less than 5 black people in my school.
Okay. And see, and I grew up the opposite. I grew up with all black people. I was like one, maybe two white skinned people. I don't want to say they were white because there's certain people that were Spanish, but they are white in color. So what's been your experiences with it? Like, do you feel like you're accepted by all the white people? Do you feel like an outsider at times? What do you think?
I feel like it's more of a what day. Some days they're like, yeah, they accept me, but then they make me realize every day that I'm not them. Like they'll say something or like make a joke, but it's like sometimes it'll be like funny, but sometimes it gets annoying.
So is it like a racist joke, like about black people, or something
It's
about you in particular?
No, it's more about like black, like watermelon and chicken and all that.
Okay, and see, and it's funny because I experienced that. I have a lot of times, the black kids I'm around. I'm a teacher. Um, those kids will make those same types of jokes about themselves, and they're okay with that. But when a white person says it, they get upset. And I'm not saying they shouldn't, because I truly get it. Because usually, if a white person's saying it, they're saying it in a racist
Yeah.
way. So when they say it, well, how do you handle that?
I usually, well, if it goes on for more than I'll like walk away and like leave the area. But if it's just one, then I just sit there. I don't laugh most of the time. I just like okay.
And do you think they pick up on you being bothered by it when you walk away?
No, I don't think so because well, it depends on the day. Like I said, like I feel like some days they're like they don't make any jokes, and then one day they'll like say they'll see something and they'll be like, oh yeah.
Mm. I mean, like I said, I deal with that a lot at the school. Another one is a big one is the N word, and
Yeah, that's a
and
good
if
one.
yeah, it a lot of the black kids that say it's okay if you're black to say the N word, and it's interesting to me because I was raised in New York where the N word is populated. We used it all the time, black, white. It didn't matter. It mattered where you grew up at. If you were in the hood, as I was raised, you used the N word. But now it's looked upon a little differently. But I do even remember back in the day that J Lo, Jennifer Lopez had a song and she used the N word, and they were very upset with her because she wasn't black in color, and she shouldn't have had a right to use it. And I have a different take on that because again, it was about culture, for me where she grew up at, and it was a part of that. But I still don't think it should be used
In a rude way.
in a way that's right derogatory. I mean, people say like, oh, well, it's always going to be used that way. Not really, because if a white person saying it to a black person, usually they're saying it in a disrespectful way. But if they're saying it like part of their speech, like just that's how they're talking to their like it's another way of saying dude.
Hmm.
Um, I'm okay with that. I don't care what color they are. It's more how you use it. But I do know people get upset. But it's even interesting with me because growing up, I was considered a white bee when people didn't like me. But I was cool other times.
Yeah, when they did, you were when you did, they accepted.
Yeah, when they accepted me, it was okay. But there was plenty of times when they would get angry. They said, "Oh, I thought I was too cute because I had good hair." I didn't even know what the heck that meant back then. I even remember being like your age. I was in either seventh or eighth grade, and it was like it would be raining, and we would walk in from the bus stop, and the girls be worried about their hair, and I was like, "Why?" Like I didn't understand. I knew they straightened it,
Yeah, but
but
they didn't.
I
No
didn't
harm.
know, right? I
Yeah,
didn't know like that if they straightened it and it got wet, that
they
it
wouldn't
would
get
get
puffy.
yeah, get puffy. And it was funny because not until I'm older and I started straightening my own hair did I
Yeah.
realize it. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. Like, this is why. But like, those are things like as kids, you don't necessarily
Understand.
understand, right, what another race is going through or what they're experiencing. So, I mean, for me, that was a lot of that. But it was interesting how, like, again, I was accepted times, kind of like with you. They look at you and they're like, oh, you're cool, but then they want to. You're also cool to make the black jokes about,
Mhm.
like that's what I'm saying. I was cool, but then when I was like they were in their moods, or if a boy liked me like that they liked, all of a sudden I became this white bee. But again, I go back to like culture because me, I was raised in a black community, so I associate myself more with black people. I feel more comfortable when I'm
Mhm.
around black
Yeah.
people. For you, it's probably the opposite.
I think it's just because I've been around them more that I'm
What,
not
black or white?
white because I'm not like I'm comfortable with everyone, but I feel like it's more since I grew up with them. I'm like I wouldn't say comfortable, but it's more like not home, but
I think for you it is home and it is comfortable because here's why I'm gonna say that. Because when I've talked to you about situations with my students, and we're not gonna talk about any of them, but when I've talked to you about situations, you get very uncomfortable. And even when you see the majority of my students are kids of, minority, black and Hispanic, you're like, oh my God, it like freaks you out a little bit. So I think because you've been raised around white people, for you that's normal. Like that is home, that is comfortable, whereas me, I'm more comfortable around black people. When I'm around white people, I feel like I don't fit in. I feel like they make sure I know I don't fit in.
yeah,
They, like kind of what you experience with the white kids, making comments. I don't so much get the comments, I feel like I get the looks, or the just the you don't fit in. And that, I think that's partly me too, just because I don't feel like I fit in. I don't listen to the same type of music. I don't dress the same as them. I don't talk the same. I mean, anyone hearing me right now is probably going to think I'm a black woman because that's how I sound, where you sound more white than I
I
do.
do.
So, there's that difference.
I think like one of my friends, I'm not gonna name drop. She she was with a lot of other people who were making jokes at the time, and then when we were just by ourselves, she would continue them, and then I got annoyed, and I was like, I texted her, and I was like, can you stop? Like, it's actually getting annoying, and I haven't heard a comment for a while now. It's been like she hasn't said anything. I feel like.
Well, that's good because sometimes people need that. I
Hmm.
think sometimes people think it's okay to say these things and
Until they realize.
yeah, they don't realize it's bothering
Yeah.
someone until someone brings it to their attention. I mean, I've had to do it a lot with students. I had to do it with family. I'm not gonna say I don't sit there and make the same stupid
Yeah.
jokes and
But
comments. I think we all have them same
there's a limit
stereotypes.
though.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to know your audience in another sense. Like we're family. We know what things we could say to each other, but your friends, I mean, if that's your friend, you don't really say things that's going to bring them down. I mean,
No. Yeah.
and she knows you're the only black girl they're hanging with, so come on, it's obvious that you're going to take some offense to it.
And I feel like because I feel like they feel comfortable saying it because they know that they say it all the time, and it's like, oh, she doesn't care. She never said anything before,
Right.
so
And it's good that you brought it to their attention. I mean, when I moved out here, I remember a girl I met, she used the word colored for black people.
oh, that's
And that's how they still referred to them out here. And I was like, no, you can't do that. Like, that's so inappropriate. And she was like, oh, I thought that's better than saying black. And I'm like, no, not at all. So, like, I think sometimes we have to educate people because sometimes people are like in a bubble and they don't really realize, how it affects other people. I know, like I said, for myself, growing up, I was the only white skinned, well, my whole family, we're the only white skinned people, and it just was difficult because there was no place for us to fit in. Like I still to this day don't know where I fit. I
yeah,
mean, right? Like we don't have
yeah,
the. When I was a kid, there was no box to check.
yeah. Like
There are now. You're lucky.
there's
There's
now like
boxes. There's mixed boxes or multi-race boxes. When I was a kid, you had to choose black or white.
I would put both
Yeah,
usually.
but they didn't let you back in the days. It said pick one, and that was hard because I was like I had to go white because that's what I look.
Hmm.
Because if I put black, they're gonna be like where. Um, but I know what I am. But I've always felt like I don't fit in anywhere. And I
Yeah,
mean, when I moved out here, it was interesting because the people out here were more interracial couples than I saw in New York.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's new, not new, but like
it's different,
yeah,
right? Because in New York, it's much more segregated. You go to one area, it's all black couples. You go to another area, it's all white couples. So when I came out here and I saw a lot of interracial couples, I was like, oh my God, like, wow, I found a place I could fit in, but I still don't fit in because
Yeah.
we're like, I don't know, it's like secret. Nobody wants to talk about being mixed. It's like you have to say you're black or white or Hispanic. You can't accept all. It's like they don't want to have that accept all button. Well, sorry, I'm all, and I'm not going to just choose one or the other. I just culturally fit in with the black community more than I do with the white, whereas you culturally fit more with the white
I think
community.
I think it's too like if I'm around black people and they're talking different and they act different, I'm like I don't act like that or talk like that, but they'll see me as black, and then when I go to the white, like I act like not white people, but I act like them, and then they'll be like, but you don't look like us, but you act like us, so it's like
And that's
it's
what people don't get is the culture. Culture is different from color. Everybody wants us to distinguish ourselves by what we look like, but where we're raised plays a major factor in how we act, who
yeah,
we are, what we accept, how the types of things we do. Like you said, you when you talk to white people, like that communication, you sound like them, you talk like them, you have that relationship where me, I feel out of
yeah, out
pocket,
of
like I'm in a
place.
whole different world. And when I talk to black people, I'm like, okay, this is my community. So again, people got to understand it's not about just color, especially when you're mixed. I think when you're mixed, it's a cultural thing. It's where you grew up, who you were raised around, and what you connect to.
And I think there's a lot of white people who grew up around black people, and then white people look at them like, why are you acting like that? Why do you talk like that? And it's
Yeah.
like you look like us, but you're acting like them. You're not supposed to do that.
And I hate that. I'm glad you brought that up because I hate that. I hate when people tell people how they're not supposed to act because our family, the white people in our family were raised around black people. So
Yeah.
technically, they're going to act black in the world of, when we want to say it like that. And that's not that's just they're acting the way they were raised in the culture they were brought up. But right away it's like, "Oh, why are you trying to act like those people?" Not necessarily trying to act like those people. That's who they are like.
Yeah. And another thing is that with the N word, like going back to that, I think that a lot of people want me to say that or give them like this pass, and it's very confusing. Not confusing, it's not annoying. It's like both.
Yeah.
Because it's like why do you want me to say it all the time? Like it's
Yeah.
just so it's like a word, but it's
Because
so
they can't say it, and so like you said they want that pass. So since you're not saying it, they can't even get that pass from you because now they're like, wait, she don't say it. But it's true. It's like I have kids that tell me all the time, oh well, I got a pass. My friends told me I have a pass because I'm friends with black kids, or my stepdad's black, so I get a pass. And I'm like,
yeah.
how do you get a pass? Like, that's what I'm saying. Again, I don't understand that concept. I let it go because it's whatever. My culture where I was raised, we said it. It wasn't in a derogatory way. It wasn't ER. I know people don't believe there's a difference, but there is. But it's just interesting to hear the kids. And I mean, I try to correct them and like, no, it doesn't work that way. And in school, you shouldn't use it anyway. But yeah, it's interesting. But you didn't grow up hearing that and saying that because that's not part of the culture you've been
Yeah.
raised in. So to expect you to say it, and that's what they probably are waiting for you to slip up and say it so they could be like, oh, she said it. Now I
Because
can
there
say
is
it.
another a black kid in my school that like when my white friends are around them, she'll say it because that's where how she grew up, and she'll say it, and then they look at me and like, why don't you say it too? And I'm like, I
Or
just
they're looking at you to see if you're going to respond to her saying it if it offends you. That might be, they're like, well, she's not offended by it, then maybe I get a pass. But you're not looking at it like that because you understand the cultural difference of how people grew up. And if it's not offending you, like we take too many things sometimes to heart. Some
yeah.
things are offensive and other things aren't.
I think it's when it's repeated multiple times every day. It's not that like it offends me, like I'm sad and I cry or anything. It's just like it's annoying. Like why do you keep on saying this? I'm tired of hearing it.
And
Like okay,
and again, for me, it goes back to how it's being said. If
yeah,
it's said in that way, if you're putting down someone, then yeah, that's a problem for me. So, well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me on this because I think this is an important topic that a lot of
most people
people,
don't
yeah,
talk about.
yeah, people. It's one of those silent issues
Yeah,
that people don't want to talk about. So hopefully, you got something out of this, guys. We're really appreciative of spending this time and talking with you guys. So we want to thank you for listening. And next week, join us when we discuss toxic relationships. We all know about them, whether they're in our home lives, our personal lives, our work lives. We've all experienced them. So stay tuned and we'll have a good conversation with you then. Thanks for joining
Bye.
us. Bye.